23 days to go to the next general election. Welcome on this cold Nairobi morning of the 16th July 2022. Today, I want to talk about the Kikuyu vote. Because as I've said before, as indeed everybody must know by now, this election will be called by the Kikuyu vote. The Mount Kenya vote will determine who becomes president. Where goes Mount Kenya, so goes the country. In the manner of where goes Ohio, so goes the nation in America. I want to give reasons, factors that will show that finally, ultimately, the Kikuyu will vote for Raila Amolo Odinga. Before I give these reasons and factors and show why it is so, allow me first to dispel one myth. Because unless you deal with that myth, then everything else you say cannot fall in place. This is a long-held myth that there's something between the Luos and the Kikuyus. That the Kikuyus cannot vote for a Luo. Of course, the Luos have shown they can vote for Kikuyus from 1963. So that myth must be dispelled. Because it's not there. I have two people in my family. My nephew called Mbuthia. My niece called Mudhoni. These are Kikuyu names. Mudhoni's father is as Luya as they go, my brother-in-law. Certainly the mother is being my sister is Luya. Among common men and women, in the estates, especially low-income places where most of us have grown, inaitwa kwa kambi. Luyas, Kikuyus, Luos, Turkanas, they live side by side. They are the same people. You wouldn't even tell the difference. That's how my sister's kid is called Mudhoni. I've seen Kikuyu children called Wafula. Tribe is brought to the fore and foregrounded and used when people want power. Some research done somewhere in Ghana, I think, shows that tribalism or ethnicity is something to be found among the elite. When people want a job somewhere, they begin to say, this community has been given this job, it has been given this, the MD has been from the Luo Nyanza place, the next MD before him was from Luo Nyanza, it's time for a Kikuyu. When they are fighting for things. This is much more pronounced when people are going for power, political power, running for president, member of parliament. You begin to rally your clan, your ridge, your tribe. These people have produced MPs for the past 3 elections. It's our turn. We cannot allow it. So there is nothing you can find between the Luo and the Kikuyu. Nothing. We must dispel that rumor. But the narratives that have been created, beginning with the time Jomo Kenyatta and Raila's father, Jaramogi Odinga, differed ideologically, I must add. This myth was then weaved. When Moyo was assassinated, there was the oath-taking that we shall not vote for Luos. Look here, it was Kenyatta trying to protect his power. It wasn't the Kikuyu. And that's why I supported BBI. That's why I supported the handshake. It was meant to address that. Because unless you address that demon, this country will never know peace. So, there's nothing between the Kikuyu and the Luo. So the Luos voting for Kibaki, there was nothing. They went for a man, to a man rather. In 2022, I can foresee a situation where the Kikuyu will vote for Raila Odinga. And I'm going to give the reasons. Because Kenyans don't hate each other. No. It is the big boys and girls who jump to tribe. When they have been arrested and taken to EACC through the revolving doors, they say tunamalizwa. Mnamalizwa na nani? Wewe ukiiba unakula peke yako, sasa community yako inatokea wapi? What we have in Kenya are mere stereotypes. That if you want to know a Kikuyu is dead, throw a shilling down. If he doesn't wake up, you know he's dead. That Kambas can do anything to get a woman. And they are loyal, that's why Indians employ them. That Luyas are cooks and watchmen. These are healthy, natural, normal stereotypes. They don't go deep beyond the skin. No, they mean nothing. And Kenyans have come to know them. They enjoy saying a Luya is a watchman, is a cook. A Kikuyu is a thief. Those are just stereotypes. They have nothing to hold people, to set people apart. Having said that, we must also dispel another myth. That the people would be supporting William Samoei Ruto because he's been nice to them. This has been put very well by Rigathi Gachagua. That the Kikuyus cannot forget somebody who does good to them. And because Ruto has been good, and indeed he has been good to them, to the point of the people of Rift Valley wondering, kwani hapa hakuna makanisa? Every Sunday you are on Mount Kenya donating things. So it's true. William Samoei Ruto has been good to the Gema community. Very good, true. So they should return the hand. But let's look at this way. Can you compare what Ruto has done to what Jaramogi did? Pressed by the colonial masters, departing colonial masters, the colonial administration wanting to grant Kenya independence and asking Jaramogi to take over power, and Jaramogi saying, no, we Africans will not take power when Jomo Kenyatta, our leader, is still in detention, in captivity in Kapenguria. We will not, I will not, certainly, as Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, take power. Release Kenyatta to come and lead the Kenyan people. Kenyatta is our second God. You can't compare that to what Ruto has done. Certainly not. Many people have seen Raila's father to have been a fool. But if you look at it critically, Jaramogi was more sophisticated than most of us. He knew that when people go hunting, the man whose dog gets hold of the antelope or fells the antelope gets a bigger chunk of the meat when it's being shared. The hunter whose arrow first strikes the animal, there is a portion of the meat is given. The Kikuyus had borne the brunt of colonialism. They had been displaced and suffered. The Kikuyu, more than anybody else, had been taken to detention camps. They had been jailed. They had been removed from their homes and put in villages so that the colonial masters, using the home guards, will keep a close watch on the Kikuyus. Jaramogi was sophisticated enough intellectually to know in a situation such as ours in the early 60s, you needed to give this power first to a Kikuyu. People think he was a fool. No. So, fast forward to 2002. Kibaki had almost given up getting power, actually, even if you look at his body language. Until that day in Uhuru Park, when Raila took everybody by surprise, said Kibaki tosha. He has explained. He knew they were going to go into merry-go-round and they'll be back what they did in 92, 97. They will not get this. They will not defeat Moi. Look at him campaigning for Kibaki when he's in hospital, coming to take power on a wheelchair. That is Raila. That cannot be compared to what Ruto has done for the Kikuyus, giving them a few handouts in churches. So that must be dispelled. Look at the situation the country was in 2007, 2008. It took a strong man like Raila not to do what he was being pushed to do by radicals on his side, including William Ruto, and accept to work with Kibaki in the coalition government. It takes a strong man to do that. You cannot compare that saved this country to what Ruto has done for the Kikuyus. So the myth that they are paying good with good is not there. Fast forward again, 2017. The country is literally split into two. Talk of secession. No business is going on. No normal person will come in Kenya that time to invest. Nothing is going on in Nairobi. You board a matatu, you are just 3 people. Nobody is willing to go to town. Again, Raila, strong enough, confident enough, loving his country enough, was able to sit with Uhuru Kenyatta and restore peace and calm and tranquility, which people are taking for granted today. Therefore, we have dispelled the myth that there is tribalism in this country that can prevent a Kikuyu from voting a Luo. That's not there. We have dispelled yet another myth that the Kikuyu owe Ruto more than they owe Raila. That is again another myth that we have now dispelled. Now to the reasons why the Kikuyu will vote for Raila Odinga. In order to understand this, you must look at the men and women around William Ruto from Mount Kenya. And one thing stands out. They are all young politicians. They are not community leaders. The Ndindi Nyoros, the Alice Wahome, the Ishungwas, Kimani Ishungwa, my friend, Rigathi Gachagua, Kidhiki Kindure, sorry for pronouncing badly, Irungu Kangata. These are junior politicians from the community. Why do you think they went to Ruto? Simple. They wanted to establish a new center of power where they will have a say as individuals, but as is usual, using the community name. Because Ishungwa would know, with the status quo, the so-called oligarchs, he will not be invited on the table. When he goes there, you'll find Mutahi Kagwe there, Peter Kenneth there, Martha Karua there. He'll be told, we kijana, enda cheza nje, utarudi baadaye. So they were establishing a center where they will matter. And as usual I've said, you use the community. Now, how has this worked? It was worked because at that point the community was made to believe it will be they who will be holding the presidency of William Ruto. They look at the numbers from Rift Valley, the numbers Ruto has, and they know minus the Gema numbers, minus the Gema leadership in terms of elected leaders, he would not sustain himself in power. And therefore, that government will essentially be a Gema government. That if he tried to betray them, even kidogo, they will only pull their support for a second and the Ruto will be out of state house. That is why you would find, for example, Ruto for a long time insisted that if you wanted to join them, come to UDA. He did that from Vihiga, said, we invite Musalia Mudavadi and the rest of the leadership from Western, but they must come to UDA. Fold your parties. That is how even Moses Kuria were told, unless you dismantle your party, the game was simple. To suck in, to bring all the Gema leadership, believing, because Ruto is a smart man, he wanted them to believe that this leadership was theirs. Now, when he looked around and saw, and began to accept that the politics of Kenya is around tribe, region, and big names, he quickly made amends and went for Mudavadi. Under new terms now, they are not joining UDA, Wetangula. And much later, Governor Kingi, Governor Mutua. That had the impact of shaking the Kikuyu from their slumber. And when I say the Kikuyu, I'm not so certain it was the entire community. What I'm certain of, it was these young leaders. And the young people around them, they had managed to convince that this was going to be our government. Now questions began to arise. And the doubts came in. Is this really still our government? Because there was no other reason why those junior politicians from Mount Kenya were supporting Ruto. They were supporting because they will be the new oligarchs. And they will own the Ruto government. Now with the reality, they are now beginning to ask themselves, and they have done that already, and they have even been putting it out there in public. Other than giving Gachagua the DP position, what else have you promised the community? Because you promised him Mudavadi and Wetangula 30% of government. You promise Mutua some share of government. You promise Kingi some share of government. The number of other people from outside our community. So that challenge is what is making the Kikuyus begin to ask themselves, what are we going to do in that place? Now, compare that to Raila Odinga now. This is the truth. The Raila people may hate it. The Ruto people may hate it. But the truth is, the Kikuyu will have a firmer grip and control in the Raila government, whether you like it or not, that they will have in the Ruto government. That's where the wind is going. The wind is moving towards indicating that they will have a bigger stake in the Raila government. With Mother Karua there, with Uhuru Kenyatta there, they will have a much bigger stake in that government than they will have in the Ruto government. Now, as it becomes clear that Raila Odinga is winning this election, the Kikuyu are being forced to ask themselves, do we want to stay in the cold? Remember, the Kikuyus fear being in the cold. You can't blame them. It's born out of their history, okay, of oppression and suppression. So they are always comfortable when they are in control of things. The 24 years of Moi rule was a nightmare to the Kikuyu. They would not want to go back to that nightmare. That explains why after Kibaki, they were able to put in another Kikuyu, against all thinking in the country that Kibaki was not going to be succeeded by Kikuyu. They did that because of what I'm saying now. And because they don't have a presidential candidate now, the Kikuyus must then ask themselves, which is the quickest route, which is the surest route back to power? Because you are not going to be there in 2022. Which is the shortest, the quickest, the surest? The Raila route or the Ruto route? The answer is simple. That the Kikuyu have a much more assured route to power after Raila than they would be after Ruto, for obvious reasons. Secondly, the Kikuyu are asking themselves, after Ruto finishes power, 10 years, we will have to sell Gachagua to the people of Kenya. If Raila takes over, we shall have to present Mother Karua to the people of Kenya to ask them for votes so that we may get back to power. So the questions are very simple. Who are you selling to the Kenyan people? Are you selling Mother Karua or are you selling Rigathi Gachagua? And for this reason, and nobody should blame the Kikuyus. Nobody should ever say Kikuyus are betrayed, they are not true friends, they don't have a friend. No. Politics is about looking at your interest and looking at what works and what can't work, being realistic about politics. And therefore, I can foresee the Kikuyus voting for Raila in numbers that will make William Samoei Ruto perhaps collapse. And we pray he doesn't. And the reasons for are very obvious. That their future, the future of the Kikuyu, the future of the Gema community, the future of Mount Kenya, seems more guaranteed in a Raila presidency than it would ever be in a Ruto presidency. For that reason, not only has Raila already won this election, but he's going to win so with such a landslide, such a convincing margin, that the people in Kenya Kwanza will take some time to absorb the shock. And what makes this very certain is the Kikuyu, in their own interest, and seeing the reality on the ground, are going to vote for Raila Odinga.